Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. What's up? What's going on?
What's going on?
Monday.
Have a good time with the games yesterday?
I did. Got them both wrong. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Good job, buddy.
You and I, you and I didn't see the only Ravens touchdown because we were driving back.
Oh.
One touchdown for that team.
Which
one
you want to do first, Ravens?
Let's do Ravens. Let's go in order.
First off, my man Stavros killed it in the post-game sad video.
Just chock full of references.
Unbelievable. Just pitch perfect. Called it rigged. It was incredible.
Did you catch when he was talking about the ref? He was like, "I'm gonna," and then he panned the camera over to a piece of cardboard that just said, "I'm gonna do something," and then went back.
Yeah. Let me give you. Let's see. Take one. Let's see. How many times did Baltimore run the ball? 16 times for 81 yards. 8 of them are Lamar Jackson. Not all of those are designed. Gus Edwards, 3 carries. Zay Flowers, 2. Justice Hill, 3. 2 running backs, 6 carries, 23 yards. Did Eric Bieniemy take over for the game yesterday?
Do you want to hear the running back totals from week 1 until yesterday? Just real fast.
I'm going to go with it wasn't 6.
Real fast here. 24, 21, 22, 21, 19, 24, 18, 23, 27, 16, 21, 22, 15, 30, 19, 25, 17, 31 last week, 6 yesterday.
They picked a bad week to not be themselves. They lost their minds.
There was no reason to either.
No, the Chiefs, they were never up more than 10.
Yes.
They did not score in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Your defense played really, really, really well. They gave up some points early. Okay.
Mahomes and Kelsey in the playoffs, what he wanted to do.
If I told you yesterday the Chiefs are going to only score 17 points, Ravens Super Bowl, baby.
In the bag.
In the
by
bag.
10. By 10.
My whole thing going into it was they can't actually score enough to win anymore. They're not turbo. They're not turbo time anymore.
Right.
They can't score enough to win. I'll hand it to them. Boy, they came out and they were handling those dudes early, big time. And I will also say this about Kansas City too. And I think they heard this, and I think Kelsey heard a lot of this, that you're not as tough as you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
They were equally as, if not the tougher team during the game. So I haven't seen a lot of that from them, but they showed up and pulled the, "Oh, you're not punking us."
Right, correct. Yep.
Don't get this twisted. You're not punking us. You might beat us, but you're not punking us while you're doing it. They showed up and were physical. Kelsey was basically ready to start a fight with everybody.
Yeah,
Their line was extremely physical. I loved the thing with Tucker where they took his tee and his helmet and stuff and threw it out of the end zone. Get out of our end zone. I loved it.
So that was funny, actually. Mahomes actually asked him nicely, "Hey, can you move your stretching while we practice this?" And Tucker was like, "No problem." And then Kelsey was the one that saw his helmet and his kicking tee and just tossed it to the side for no reason, essentially. Because he had already had a disagreement with Mahomes.
Listen, I said this last week, and we made fun of him. When he did the heart symbol in Buffalo, everybody knew why he did it. And then he lied about it. Yes. And he came out and he said, no, that was for everybody. One love, everybody.
Yeah,
it's for the Bob Marley movie.
Sure,
whatever, buddy. Yeah, whatever, buddy.
Viral market.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what it's for. We know why. Yeah, we know what you did it for. And he lied about it because he got called soft. Yeah. Everybody was like, "Oh man, see."
Rightfully so. I mean,
even when you're playing Buffalo in the playoffs, you're thinking about her the whole time.
Yeah, right.
It got to him.
Yep. Right.
That was vintage Travis Kelce yesterday. That was first ballot Hall of Famer Travis Kelce yesterday. That was one of the best games he's ever played. He was killing people yesterday.
Correct.
Blocking, hitting people, starting fights, couldn't stop him.
Right.
Putting the first down thing right in their face when he does it. That was the guy who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe best tight end ever. That's what you saw yesterday. And I think that came from everybody going, "This dude is so soft." After doing the heart thing in Buffalo, he's not the same guy. And it woke him up. And that was bad news for Baltimore that happened.
Want to know who did that? Jason. Jason
Probably.
and him had to have had a conversation,
Probably.
not, off the air of Jason probably said, "Get it, man, but you're about to play this team, and you can't do what you did last week against that team.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if old Brittany got in with Taylor and was like telling him they think your guy's soft.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised if that came from that side of it, too.
Talk about it like that.
Those two seem like they are peas in a pod. I know the world hates to see that, and I'm surprised the Swifties haven't glommed onto that the new BFF is Brittany Mahomes. But you watch them, and that looks real. Like, that doesn't look fake.
I agree with
They're
you.
doing handshakes and hugging it out and doing all sorts of crazy stuff together. And, Brittany Mahomes comes off as the she's a big athlete, too. Like, she's to be competitive, too. Like, she gets it. Like, in that quarterback series, you learned about her. Like, she's right. Mentally, from the athletic standpoint, like, now you know why they're a match with all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, those two are probably talking about how they're probably both killers, like, athletically, probably both killers. And I bet that was some of it that got back to him, too, because he showed up and was the animal again.
Yeah. No.
This is why he is who he is. When he played like that yesterday, he's unstoppable.
The joke with Kelsey is always that, he's the blackest white dude in the league, essentially. Between what he wears, how he talks, how when he gets angry, it's like a different kind of angry.
If you told me those two were brothers, I wouldn't believe you.
I agree. 100%, because they're totally different. Totally different. But that's what Travis does. He wears the streetwear. Like, he totally takes on that mantle a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he walked into Baltimore and was like, yeah, it's kind of my... He kind of felt the juices flowing again. I feel like that's what happened yesterday.
Well, they also, the Buffalo thing going into the week, Buffalo's been like, please, please, please let it be our turn, but no one's sitting there going, oh, they're definitely going to win. This was the first time in a while that people were like, I think Chiefs are going down. I felt that way too.
Right.
And it goes back to the original point, and this is what I thought would happen. I didn't think they would score a lot on them. I thought the Ravens' defense has been the best defense in the league this year, and the Chiefs' offense isn't turbo time anymore. The Chiefs' offense scores 21 points a game. They've had receivers that have been unreliable at times. They were very reliable the last few weeks and reliable yesterday. MVS made, obviously, the game-sealing catch. He had dropped a bunch of passes like that going into – but if you told me before the game they're going to score 17, I'd be like Ravens Super Bowl. There's no chance that it's going the other way. And this goes back to what happened on offense. And there's two aspects to this that need to be discussed. One, obviously Todd Monken lost his mind because to actually come out of there, if you're looking at the box score going Gus Edwards and Justice Hill had 6 carries in a 17-10 game, you clearly did something wrong.
Yes.
It'd be one thing if they were getting boat raced and they just had to throw the ball to try to get back into it. But it was never out of reach.
Right.
Never. It was never out of reach. They had the answer for the first touchdown. Yes, they were down 17-7, but it was never out of reach. So much so that if it wasn't for 2 red zone turnovers, they might have won anyway.
That's right.
So the game was always there for them. They lost it, and they got out of what they do, and then they unraveled entirely. They got out of what they do. They had a bazillion penalties and a bunch of bad ones.
Yep.
Really bad penalties, just not things I would expect from a Harbaugh team.
That's right. Yep.
They beat themselves.
Correct.
In many ways, they beat themselves. There's the other part that I'll get to in a minute, which is Lamar, because it's a tough conversation because he is, for some reason, he has been placed in a spot where you're not really allowed to criticize him. Mm-hmm. And I saw Stephen A. went at him pretty hard today, and others are, saying it, and I'll talk about him in a minute. But let me just go back to all the other stuff. One, you beat yourselves making stupid mistakes. You got baited into a lot of penalties, right? A lot of them. Kelsey brought on a lot of that to them.
Yep.
They got under their skin fast.
The one taunting one, by the way, too, was he would have gotten away with it if he had just gotten up and celebrated, but he did the shove down, and it was like, dude, you are in the red zone. What are you doing there? That was a ridiculous one. You have to have a cooler head in that situation.
This one also, yesterday, that game felt like a hockey game to me. Where they were baiting those dudes, and it was a get off our lawn game.
It
was
Brad
a total.
from
they were
Kelsey.
Let's see what happens if things aren't going their way, and we mess with them a little bit. And those dudes unraveled.
Oh.
It was one of those it actually felt like, and the crazy part is the Ravens have been there many times. It felt like they hadn't been there before.
I agree.
That's how they acted to me. We haven't been there before. They couldn't keep their composure. Zay Flowers busts his hand up on the bench, throwing his helmet down. They're getting baited into all sorts of weird penalties. Mm-hmm. They're getting upset every time someone gets up in their face. They're getting beat up a little bit. And, oh, by the way, they got the Magic Man playing quarterback over there. So, they beat themselves. they actually, and I'm surprised by this because it's them. This isn't Detroit, who hasn't been there in forever. And let's just see how they act in this situation. Baltimore has. They've played really good teams this year. Someone said the stat where they beat 11 teams with plus 500 records this year by an average of 14 points.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I told you they were the quietest one seed, period.
People weren't talking about how dominant they were.
Yes, yeah, agreed.
People were not talking about how dominant they ended up being by the end of the year. And they totally turtled. Yeah. And they didn't meet the moment. They were scared of it. Mm-hmm. They got baited into things. And then they started getting out of what they do. They stopped running the ball.
Right.
Why would you stop running the ball? You're the Baltimore Ravens. That's what you do.
That's right.
They forgot who they were. They lost it. Kansas City got in their head early, and they lost it.
They lost it. Zay Flowers makes a massive mistake of not protecting the ball, trying to get that touchdown. And that flips the game. That really flipped the game because they were walking away with points, and then it's a one-possession game regardless of what they do at that point. And that flipped it. That really flipped it.
Well, that ended the real opportunity for a comeback.
Yes.
The real opportunity for a comeback.
But same thing.
And that's an unfortunate thing to happen. He fumbled the ball. What are you going to do?
Right.
It was,
But same thing. The defense played so well. They still had a chance by the end, and then Lamar throws it in triple coverage, and you're like, what are you guys doing?
That was a terrible throw.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, too. Here's the other part about the not running the ball that really got me yesterday. So it's 17-7. You may have noticed Chris Jones got banged up a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
He came in.
He's on the sideline.
Yes. He came in knee brace on, so he's not 100%.
Yeah.
Something happened early in the second half, and he was really slow to walk off. I was actually disappointed in Nance and Robo that they weren't pointing it out because this is the best player on their defense, most dominant player. He was on the sideline for the drive they scored that touchdown. They walked right down the field and scored a touchdown. And I'm sitting there going, okay, their best defensive player's out, and you run the ball. What are you doing?
Yep, right.
What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
He did come back. He did play. He had to go out again. So he's gutting it out.
Exactly.
He's just gutting it out, getting through.
He's not playing every snap, every step of the way.
He couldn't go a couple series, and they said they had to pull him a couple times. He was limping off of the field. So even more reason the best player on their defensive line was out at critical stretches of the second half. And it should have been so blatantly obvious. The one touchdown they scored, or the field goal that they got late, he was not in. Right. They walked down the field and scored when he wasn't in. And so I'm watching this going, you guys got away from yourselves. This unraveled on you, and it's really yours to blame. You could sit here and say they did this or this call was that or that should have been PI on the triple coverage interception you threw into, which, on replay looks like he was kind of pushed, but there is no referee that's calling that an underthrown ball in triple coverage. There's no way they're calling PI there.
Yep.
They're not going to bail them out like that.
Right.
Don't at me with it's rigged. They're not going to. Tyler Bass didn't miss to rig the Super Bowl, guys. All right. So they're not going to make that call. I know there were a couple, every game's got a couple dicey calls. There was one on OBJ. There was an overthrown pass where the guy was hand jockeying with him down the field. It didn't look enough to warrant a call to me, but the Ravens fans were all ticked off. I don't remember the Chiefs getting any great calls.
Mm-hmm. No,
do you?
No.
Because for all the people who were complaining about the refs yesterday, I don't remember the referees making a call that wasn't obvious.
That's right. Yeah, 100%.
All that, all those dumb penalties they took, that was on Zay Flowers for doing that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The Clowney roughing the passer, he lowered his head into his helmet. Of course they're going to call that. It's it was an obvious foul. So I don't think the referees were biased or didn't feel biased at all yesterday. This is all on them. They lost control of themselves. They stopped being themselves. They stopped doing the things that they're good at. And to look up at the scoreboard and feel that they lost at home 17-10, they held the Chiefs to 17 and lost, that's on you. Mm-hmm. They don't know anybody else. 100%. That's on you.
Right, exactly.
And I'm surprised because if you told me Detroit was going to totally go crazy, I would have believed you. I wouldn't believe it with them. That's the disappointing part of this is that they offensively were not themselves the whole time. And so they got no one but to blame but themselves.
This was a classic. The Chiefs have been there before and know how to weather that storm. I think now zooming out and looking at everything Baltimore dealt with through the week and leading up to that game, they got complacent. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. They're the 1 seed.
I
Everyone's
think
saying
they thought they were going to win.
Yes.
They put so much pressure on themselves. Like, I think they really just truly, honestly believed they were going to win the game.
I agree with you on that, but I think it's more complacency than anything else. Like, I thought they were just going to. I think they thought they were going to walk over Mahomes and them, knowing that they were kind of mid this year, as the kids would say. Like, I think they thought. First game in 50, however many years since, what was it, 1971? First AFC championship since 1951 or 71. We got Ray in the house. We got Ed Reed in the house. We have Michael Phelps on the sideline. The crowd loves us. Everyone's telling us how dominant we are now after we've been dominant all year. Everyone's kind of seeing that now. I think they just got complacent, and they thought they were going to walk over the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, as you said, walked in and said, oh, this is how it's going to be, huh? Yeah. Like, this is...
You are disrespecting the team that's been in the Super Bowl 3 of the last 4 years.
Right.
Watch what we do.
Also...
And they came out, again, like Vandy Reed credit. Whatever they scripted early, they had those dudes.
Yep.
They scripted it. They got out to the lead. And this was the whole thing with Baltimore. And this is rare because they typically do get a lead. What happens when they get behind? Mm-hmm. What happens when they get behind? And yesterday, they stopped doing the things they're good at.
Right. Exactly.
There is no game that Gus Edwards should have 3 carries.
Yep, I agree. 100%.
That's ridiculous. There is no game. There's no game that the Ravens should have 6 carries by running backs.
Right.
Are you kidding?
That's ridiculous.
You guys have perfected this.
Yep.
Like, most of the time you're ahead, but even when you're behind, why? When you know you're one of the best in the league at doing it, how did you end up running the ball as little as you did?
Yeah.
And that's the problem here today, I think, for them. The other one is Lamar. And this one's the tough one because we ran into this with Bieniemy. There are certain players that, for whatever reason, or coaches for that matter, that it becomes this kind of lightning rod thing if you criticize them, even if you're supposed to criticize them at that point. So I saw Stephen A. come at him pretty hard today. His record in the playoffs is what it is. His performances in the playoffs are what they are. Mm-hmm. He was sacked 4 times. He threw a terrible pick in like a crunch time moment. I do believe that his offensive coordinator lost it yesterday. It didn't help him very much. They should have run the ball more because that's what they're also good at. I also didn't see a lot of scripted runs for him, which, come on, it's Lamar Jackson. Like, what are you doing? So they put the ball in his hands, in my opinion, throwing it way too much. They ran the ball 16 times and threw it 37. It's a 17-10 game. Right. It was never out of reach. So I don't want to go too crazy at him. However, he deserves criticism today. He did not play particularly well. And everyone who keeps telling me he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, well, you got to produce in moments like this. They had the home game yesterday. Their defense held up their end of the bargain. He and that offense didn't win. And I'm willing to hear out a lot of the reasoning that the offensive coordinator put them in a weird position and never should have been that way.
Sure.
That's not his fault. But in the end, he's got to make the plays. And that throw in the fourth quarter in the end zone is losing football. And if you're not willing to just say it when you would say it against anybody else, then you're biased to just wanting him to have some level of greatness that he, in my opinion, hasn't ascended to yet.
I agree.
He's a very, very, very good player. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying the guy's a great player, but he has not won big yet.
Right. No,
he's not. And like, if you can't just say that, like, then I think you're being ridiculous because you'll say it about Allen and you'll say it about some of the others. But if you won't say it about him, they should have won yesterday. They had the home game. That team scored 17 points. They had the best defense in the league, and they held one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time to 17 points, and they lost. That's a little bit on him.
It was also how it went in that second half. He was given all the time in the world, multiple times in the third and fourth quarter, where they were holding up the Chiefs' front 4. And yes, they drop everyone in coverage, but that's the point where you do take off running and you make those big plays. They had him bottled up in the second half. You have to figure it out when they're only rushing 4, whether that's running the ball more or finding the open guy. I was actually happy with CBS and the amount of times they were showing, like, he missed that guy who was wide open running through there. Like, it happened 3 or 4 times in the second half when it was still only a 10-point game that he could have made a big play, and he did not. He did not deliver yesterday.
No, he didn't.
And I'm with you. Like, I'll hear out. The game plan was never to have him throw a bunch of times, but they lost their mind. But still, you have to figure it out, especially when he was getting all the time in the world and still missing wide open guys.
I mean, look, like I said this yesterday going into it. I'm like, listen, the hardest thing about picking the Ravens today is you're going against Mahomes. He's in the category of Brady. Mm-hmm. It's the toughest out in sports. He's the toughest out right now.
Right.
And I appreciate, like I said going in, I said, one of the things that I've appreciated about Kansas City in this like late season into playoff run is they've settled into, they're not turbo time this year.
Yep.
They're not able to just beat the brakes off you anymore. Because of that, they've adjusted. And they've become what I described as kind of a more professional operation. They're not toying with you. They're not trying to do crazy stuff. They're just like, we're going to play this more straight up than we normally would. We're going to trust our defense because it's been better than it has been in recent years. And we're not going to do the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, come at us because we have all-timers on our team. And if Lamar Jackson is one of those guys, this was the year to actually do it. You had the home game, and they're not scoring a ton of points.
Yep.
And your defense played really well again. I know early they gave up a couple touchdowns, but 17 to Kansas City is, I'm sorry, you should have won. And that's on the offense, and that's on the quarterback. And if you're not willing to say that, then you're just being blind to him and saying, I want you to tell me he's great, and I don't want to hear otherwise, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I'm just going to put my fingers in my ears, and if you don't tell me he's great, I don't want to hear it.
Right.
Everybody thinks he's good. Everybody does. Nobody doesn't think, anybody who follows it doesn't think
He makes
that
plays no one
anymore.
else can make.
Correct. He's a great, great player. No one dismisses that. But if you want him to be treated on the same level of some of these other people, he has to win one of these. And I'll say the same thing about Josh Allen, to be fair, because I know what it's about. And so I'll say it about Josh Allen. He also has not won big yet.
That's right.
It has not happened. Now, the difference is, so far, Allen, in that classic game a couple years ago in Kansas City, wasn't his fault they
That's
lost.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, he got into this craziest shootout of all shootouts,
Yes.
and Mahomes beat him. And then last week, it wasn't his fault they lost. Like, go look at his numbers. Go look what they did. That kicker missed a field goal. Like, they couldn't get stops when they needed them.
Yep.
It wasn't his fault. Lamar did not get into a fourth quarter back and forth and, well, he lost to Mahomes, oh well. No, he couldn't produce enough offense for them.
Yep.
And whether they put him in the position to do it is another conversation. He still didn't do it. And if you're unwilling to just hear it and you want to plug your ears and pretend that he's the greatest quarterback since whatever that's never won anything big, then I think you're just being blind to what is fair criticism of him. He's allowed to be criticized like anybody else. And today, he deserves some of it. How does he not?
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think anyone's skirting the blame all from him. I mean, he deserved all of the criticism, especially, like I said, he left guys wide open. He had all the time in the world. You're supposed to make he's the guy that makes the plays when they're only rushing 4. And somehow he was getting caught a few times there. Yeah.
Look, people scream and yell that Purdy stinks, and he's lucky he's on the team he's on. Did you watch that second half yesterday?
Yeah, he was surgical.
He was great.
Yeah, he was surgical.
He was great. He ran multiple
like
times.
Yeah.
He was great. And I get it. The Lions are not the Chiefs, right? I get it. But they were down 17 at half, and they came out and they took advantage of some dumb things that I'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But they also had to execute on offense, and he did.
Right.
So you get to shut up the doubters when you win stuff like this. He had every opportunity, Lamar, to win that game yesterday, and he didn't. So he's got to take that.
Right.
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, it's hard to hear. Or the same thing with Bieniemy. The hiring of him made it difficult to criticize him because people feel he's been overlooked over and over and over. And that may be true. But after you have a season where you have an unproven quarterback behind a bad offensive line throwing the ball 70% of the time and you go 4-13, I'm sorry, you deserve some of the criticism now. And if you're unwilling to give that to him, then you're just not being fair to everybody.
That's
here.
right.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let me get to Detroit next and crazy Dan Campbell. So Baltimore had Taylor Swift yesterday. San Francisco had Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead on the sideline, who, considering how many drugs he's consumed in his life, I can't believe he's mobile walking around on a sideline. And, of course, Eminem, who showed up to support Detroit, and there's an incredible picture of him just flipping off San Francisco fans from like one of the luxury suites.
It's fantastic.
So it was... It was perfect wine and cheese versus Detroit. It was awesome.
The joke,
it really was awesome.
The joke today for the people that are being sarcastic about the script writing, by the way, are like, "Oh, Raj saw Baltimore versus Detroit and was like, nah, we're not going with that."
Why not? It'd be fun.
Oh, you and I, we're fine with it.
I would have a blast in Vegas if that was the case.
But they're like,
me, Stavros, Eminem, we're gonna have a blast.
lot of characters there.
That's a different wardrobe that you're bringing with you.
You're right. Yeah, 100%.
San Francisco, Kansas City, Taylor Swift versus San Francisco.
Right.
That's certain wardrobe.
Yes.
Baltimore, Detroit.
Oh, combat boots, all of it. Get it all out.
I'm drinking a 40 of Old English. That's what I'm doing for that one.
The casino starts stocking 40s for the first time.
Oh, yeah, 40s. What 40s do you have back there? Be great. All right, let's get into Detroit. So, obviously, Dan Campbell's nuts. Man, I started flagging this late in the season. It was the Dallas game. When they went for two, and I said, all right, this is all well and good, and they screwed, in my opinion, whether the refs got this call wrong or not, it didn't matter to me. I'm like, you all screwed up with what you did. And I appreciate the aggressiveness. I also appreciate that they are backed by the math in most cases, right? So whenever I hear and this is the worst part about what happened yesterday, we had a week or two ago, or last couple of weeks, we've had the people who don't believe in the math in decision making yelling about that you got to go, quote unquote, by the book, which doesn't include the math, right?
Yep.
And then this week, we had him do something that the analytics people feel as if they need to defend because he's done it all year, but it actually is not sound reasoning. But that means the anti-analytic people get to go, see, told you, this is why you can't let a robot explain to you what to do on the field. And it's somewhere in the middle, and I will tell you why.
By the way, he did not mention in his postgame presser yesterday, he did not mention the word analytics or stats.
He went with his gut on the last one.
Yes.
The
correct.
first one and the last one are two different things.
Yep.
Okay?
Right.
The first one was in the third quarter, and the score was 24-10 at that point.
Yep.
All right? It was a makeable field goal. It was, I don't know, it would have been 40-something yards.
Right.
Badgley hasn't been terrific, but he's a professional kicker, and with not terrible conditions out there, you assume a make, anything inside of 50, but whatever. They also, and I will give them, for the people who go, this is Dan Campbell, and this is what he does, okay, I'll hear it on this one.
Yeah.
It's 24-10. It's the third quarter. The momentum hasn't totally swung yet. The Niners had scored a field goal, but that's it. And Detroit went back down the field, and we're kind of right there. And he's thinking kill shot at this point.
Sure.
I score a touchdown here. They're not coming back. All right. On the other side of that, he makes this field goal. It's a 3-score game.
Sure.
In the third quarter, on the road in the NFC Championship. I don't need a mathematician to understand what that means. They got to score 3 times to beat you without you scoring again. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm willing to let that one go more because I think the right thing to do is to kick and make it a 3-score game. But because they are who they are and they've been doing this the whole year, okay.
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the first half.
That was the Brown drop, right? Like
That was the Reynolds drop.
Okay, the Reynolds drop. Yes,
that was the
right. Yeah.
Reynolds had 2 drops.
Yes.
He had that one, the 4th down and one, and the one that was the killer, the wide open 3rd down one that ended
That's
a drive.
right. Yeah, exactly.
People haven't talked a lot about that one.
Right.
He had one where he was wide open, hit him in the hands, and dropped it on what would at least kept the drive going.
Yeah.
And that's what started spiraling things really fast. That, the misplayed punt was ridiculous, and the 2 decisions here on 4th down. On this first one, that's the Lions. They do this for better or worse. And I said this during the Dallas game, and I said it leading into it. The thing that concerns me most about them is they don't make sound decisions. They are a gambling team. And that gambling attitude has got the support of their fan base, and everybody loves them, and it's been fun. But this isn't week 5.
Right.
This is the NFC Championship game now. Taking points off the board, or potentially taking them off the board because you wanted to get a first down there, I think was a risk that I don't think I would have done. I would have made it or tried to make it, there's no guarantee, but I would have tried to make it a 3-score game. If it was 55 plus, okay,
right,
go for it. You know what? Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But inside of 50 with a professional kicker who's been around the block and hasn't been missing kicks lately, I would have gone different. And granted, having hindsight, and him dropping that pass. It wasn't a perfect pass, but he dropped whatever, whoever you want to blame for it. It doesn't look good. It kept it a 2-score game. San Francisco got really lucky on that crazy catch to Ayuk, but all of a sudden, they're just back in it, and it felt a little unnecessary. So on the first one, okay.
Yep.
At the end of the first half, when they were inside the 5 and it was 21-7, I was watching him because he's walking down there thinking about going for it.
Right.
And even at that point, at least his better judgment came over him. Take the points, dude.
Right.
And in this case, I would have said take the points. So on the first one, all right, I'll let it go.
Okay.
It's not the second one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one's a mistake, an enormous one, all right? And not just because they didn't complete the pass. It's an enormous mistake. You're down 3.
Right.
There's, 8 minutes to go?
Yes.
Something like that. Obviously, the momentum has shifted significantly. San Francisco's walking down the field on you. Here's what the math tells you, all right? And this is the part that's undisputable, and this is why this is in the middle. With about 8 minutes to go in the game, you can reasonably expect, without some very unusual circumstances like a lot of turnovers, that you are going to get the ball 1 to 2 more times, period. That's it. So, if you don't score here, and they do, you are
You're two possessions down. Yeah.
2 possessions down with an amount on the clock that suggests you will not get the ball 2 more times.
Correct.
This is why you have to kick the field goal here.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that's going to happen, well, the worst thing is he misses, right? But let's say he makes, you're tied. Now the worst scenario is they're going to score, but you are within earshot of them.
Yep.
And you get the ball back and you have your chance. He took that away from them. And granted, I guess if they converted, then it would have been a gamble that was worth it. But I asked this question. If they weren't going to kick there, down 3, and let's say they converted, what if they get into another 4th and 5 at the 10? Are they kicking at that point?
Yeah.
Are you? And let's just say you do. Well, how much time went off the clock to get from wherever you were down to that point where you ran 3, 4, 5, 6 more plays, whatever it may be? Now, all of a sudden, you're making a choice of, am I going for it? Which at that point on the clock, I can't even argue you would. You would kick to tie. I mean, these are all now what ifs.
Sure.
But let's say there's now only under 5 minutes to go in the game. And now you do kick. Now I guarantee you're only getting the ball back 1 more time.
Right.
This is why he was wrong. It is not because they always go for it. Oh, the stupid nerd. Now they're going to say he should have kicked. No, he should have kicked because there's nobody in his analytics department telling him to do otherwise. They're following all that. This one was all him pushing his chips in the middle with ace 3 off, and he should have never, ever, ever done that. You don't do things like this. You can't. The analytics are what you use to guide you. And in his case, he goes beyond it. He believes that even at 40%, he's better served to go all in. That's not what they tell you to do. You don't understand them if this is what you're doing. And he messed up badly. He should have taken the points, tied the game, put his ego aside for a second, help his team, because all the pressure is on San Francisco in that moment, tied in the 4th quarter to score again.
Right.
And he took that away from them. All the pressure is now on his defense to make another stop, which they did not, and the game was over at that point. He left. They didn't get the ball back enough to do it.
No, I mean,
they ran out of possessions.
They ran out of time. Yes.
That's all the math said there. You will run out of time. You will not have enough possessions. The best case scenario after not having that happen was, I guess, a punt, but they somehow just kick a field goal and you still have a shot to win at the end.
Right.
But that didn't happen. He had no feel for the game at that point, and it's a massive mistake. And don't even tell me someone in his analytics department told him to go for it there. There's no chance that they did with the time on the clock and the possessions that were remaining that it was worth that risk. It was not. So I think he messed up bad. And he even said it in postgame of we may never get another shot like this again. That's the reason why you don't do it at that point in the NFC Championship game on the road. You never do that.
Sure. But I mean, I will push back, and I think the other plays were bigger than that decision. The Gibbs fumble, the 3 drops, huge drops.
Sure.
The team completely fell apart. It was not all his fault.
Ayuk made a crazy play. That was lucky.
Yes.
The
correct.
Gibbs fumble, terrible.
Yes.
Right, terrible.
Exactly, right.
Like bad timing, terrible, the whole
Right.
thing. I agree. All these things add up. But you land where you land, where you land there.
Right.
At that point, at 27-24 with 8 minutes to go in the game, you have to make a proper decision on behalf of your team. He didn't. So all of those other things contributed to what was a massive implosion.
Right.
But the decision-making's part of it too. So, he takes either one of those field goals, extrapolate out, they're in overtime.
That's true. No, that's
He
that's a
takes
fact.
them both,
Yes.
they might win.
They might win. No, I agree on that.
And that's the problem here. And again, that's why, I don't want to pretend that we know what the outcomes are had he made decisions differently, because that's not fair. But I do know in that moment that wasn't the right decision.
Right.
Even if they converted it, the only answer that makes that the right decision is a touchdown, which begs the question: if they found themselves in another 4th and goal situation that's not at the 1 or something like that, like 4th and goal from the 7, would they have enough discipline to actually kick because it's the right thing to do?
Right.
And by the time that they did that, so much more time had gone off the clock that San Francisco could be in a situation where they're driving to win and never give you the ball back. This is my point about it. The time on the clock dictated there were only so many possessions left in the game. To not tie the game is malpractice. It's stupid, and it's a dumb risk, and it blew up in their face. And this was the thing that I was worried about with them. They gamble too much. I appreciate the gamble.
Yeah.
I appreciate they take calculated risks. But sometimes you can gamble too much, and when you do, you go bust. I want to be at the table with the guy who raises every hand because I know I'm going to catch him. I know it.
Right.
You raise every hand. You don't have it every time. You're asking for it. You build those pots up like that, you are asking for it to get caught. And he got caught and he gambled too much.
The only argument I'll have, though, is that they were not moving the ball the same, and maybe he thought that was their only shot to score a touchdown. That's the only other process I could think, if that's what he thought. And at that point, you are basically conceding anyways, though. You're saying we're not good enough to only take the 3 here because we don't think we're going to get close enough on the other side of it.
I think you got to trust your team a little bit more than that. I really
maybe.
do. I just think you got to trust your team a little bit more. The reality
All your
is
playmakers were not doing that in the second half, though. Like
they were not
the
targeting
drop.
St. Brown for whatever reason. Reynolds had a couple bad drops. One on that 4th down.
St. Brown dropped one. I mean,
he did.
I think he panicked because his team was unraveling in front of him, and he thought this is going to be my only shot to get 7. That's where, and granted, he still might have regretted that in postgame, but I think I see in his logic in the moment of I don't know if we're going to get this close for the rest of the game. I
think you tie the game and then you reassess.
Yeah.
Because the score now is back where it was. We're square. It was a mistake. I mean, I would have argued you take the points in the 3rd quarter on the 4th down one anyway, but I will hear out the people who go, well, you didn't watch him all year. This is what they do. You think you had Riverboat Ron. We got Crazy Dan over here who's, he's raising on top of raising. He doesn't matter what you do, he raises you.
Lose yourself, Dan.
And I think he deserves a lot of criticism for this. 27-24 with 8 minutes to go in the NFC Championship game on the road with a makeable field goal to tie the game. How do you not take that? It wasn't 4th and 1.
Mm-hmm.
If it was 4th and 1 or 4th and inches or something, all right, go get it. You got this offensive line. Go get it.
That's fair.
Fine. 4th and whatever it was, it's not worth the risk. Not with the amount of possessions left. Let's see if Purdy makes a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
He did a couple of plays late in that game where he ran across side, threw the ball back across his body. Jennings made that crazy one-handed catch. That's an interception waiting to happen.
Right.
I don't know. I think he messed up badly. And I feel for the people of Detroit because, I don't know, they've been waiting a long time for this. Did they want somebody pushing their chips in with a 7-8 offsuit? Because that's what he did.
I think you live and die by how you got there. I mean, that's the problem with the Ravens. They didn't live and die with what got them there. Correct.
They died by doing things that they don't do.
Exactly. That's why I think if you're a Detroit
with
fan,
Detroit, I guess, but I mean, you got to take the points at some point.
Right. No, that's true. That's true. I also think you felt worse because you were about to get the Chiefs, who you boat raced on opening night. That game wasn't close at all, actually. They dominated them week 1. So I will say that feels worse waking up knowing we would have had a chance, a real legitimate chance to beat them.
I can tell you this. You make stupid choices like that against that team, you end up losing.
That's true, but they didn't in week 1.
That's right.
They killed him week 1. That game wasn't close.
I don't remember. Did they do anything nuts in that game? I can't remember.
I think they did a fake.
Well, I know they had a pick 6. I remember that.
Didn't they do a fake punt or a fake kick?
Early.
Or like way like first, like I want to say like the first drive or something. But that was it though. That was, I mean, they were ahead basically the entire game and they dominated them. So I don't know. I think that feels worse knowing you could have beaten the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at some point, like, it's not offensive or out of character to do something that's right for the team.
Yeah.
And what he did in the second half feels like, well, this is just who we are. And he just like didn't even look at the clock or the score and take it into account. And that's why I have a problem with it. And this is also not a analytics versus non-analytics argument. The one in the third quarter, I'd have to go look at the math on it. Up 24-10, 7+ minutes, whatever it was, to go for it on fourth down there versus kicking a field goal. I would have looked at the scoreboard and said, we make this, we're up 3 scores. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
But they didn't. But I have a feeling the math's a lot closer on this one. I'd have to go look this up, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
On that first
With
one.
the possessions that were remaining because of clock time, to not kick there is malpractice. There's no analytics person that's going to tell you otherwise.
On that first one, too, though, they had the play call, they had the play, and it was
dropped
a drop.
it.
Like that's where I'm hard.
It wasn't a great pass, but it was a drop.
But it was a drop. Yeah, hit him right in the hands. And so that's the one where I kind of just threw away because the decision was actually right in terms of the decision and then the play call. So
the other two killers were Reynolds dropped a wide open pass on a third down that would have kept the drive going. That was a killer. So they went off the field fast after that happened. And the other one was they didn't down a punt at the 1.
Right. Yeah, that one was bad.
That's a killer too.
Yeah.
Absolute killer. All right, let's take a quick break. Brad Buster Show, ESPN 630 at Sports Capital. Hey, you want to win a trip to Las Vegas during the weekend of the big game, 2 weeks away? Enter now for your chance to win a trip for 2 to Vegas, which includes airfare, 2-night stay at the Fontainebleau Las Vegas, brand new hotel. It's beautiful. With a $150 credit, 2 tickets to the Fontainebleau Las Vegas big game viewing party. That's at their Blue Live Theater. All you got to do is text the word ROLL to 95819. That's ROLL to 95819. Standard messaging and data rates may apply. Contest rules at sportscapitaldc.com/contests. I saw, like everybody has seen, boy, did everybody enjoy putting up the clip of Chase Young not really chasing Jahmyr Gibbs
on
a touchdown run.
You can't hide from that one, and it's the NFC Championship game, bro.
Yeah.
He deserved all of it yesterday for that one.
He got it. Boy, did the internet come after him yesterday.
Rightfully
Everyone
so.
saw the film in real time on that one. And with Chase, I was actually watching him later in the game, and there were a few really good rushes he had.
He did. After that point, actually.
It's almost like someone got to him and said, this is out there. Like almost told him at halftime, this is out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, because once that play happened, he actually was shot out of a cannon like multiple times. But he deserved all the criticism, all the smoke on that one.
Yeah, he got it. And here's what I would just say about it. Like, this is, I don't know. Have you guys not noticed? He played here for 3.5 years. Have you not noticed that part of his game? What?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I go so far to not go after him because it's just not in my nature to do it.
I've said it on our airways before. I said he likes to make business decisions a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He loves a 3rd and long pass rush.
He does not
everything
have,
else.
as they like to classically say, he does not have the motor.
No.
Now,
when kids would say, he doesn't have that dog in him.
No, when he goes, he goes. And he actually made a couple of he had a couple nice pass rushes yesterday, and he made a stop on a run play that came towards him, which I was like, Ben Johnson, run right at him. Let's go see. But there was that one, and it's evident for anyone to see, and you'll see a lot of it if you actually go look for it. Chase is a dominating, great, elite athlete when he wants to be.
Yeah, right.
He also has been marginalized by injuries, so... I keep going back to no one wants to say because everyone loves the guy and pictures. I don't know what they picture actually with it, but I
think it's because he's from
the
here.
reason to trade him was very easy to make. It really was. They were not going to give him a long-term contract, mainly because they're worried about his long-term health.
Yep.
And we'll have to see what the other side of free agency is for him. I've kind of said I really don't think he'll be in San Francisco unless he's willing to take a cheap deal because they've already paid so many guys that it's hard for me to believe he'll get the type of money he's looking for. But then clips like that pop up, and you wonder, is he going to get that from anybody?
Right. No, that's exactly right.
So we'll see. His free agency is going to be very interesting to me to see where he goes and how much money he gets and what length of time he gets. And I'm not rooting against it, but what everybody saw yesterday was Guys, I study film, and I saw so much of it for 3 years that I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not new.
Yeah.
What you saw is actually not new. There are plenty of moments where you go, wow, like you get it with him. And then there's moments like that where you go, yeah.
Right.
Good with the bad with his play. He's not Bosa or Hutchinson, where you're not going to see a lot of that. He's not Max Crosby. You're going to see a lot of that. He's not Josh Sweat from the Eagles, for that matter. You're not going to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's not Montez, for that matter. You're not going to see a lot of that with him.
I'm not shocked that he then played like that from there on out, and then like some of the conglomerate sources were basically saying San Fran was already considering not playing him in the Super Bowl.
I saw that. I didn't believe that. I need to hear that from a real reporter.
Well,
like
I agree, but I think what happened is
I saw those things and I'm like, someone just hot taked something off of one clip from a game, and then all of a sudden they said
but
that.
what could have happened was in the game, whoever the D-line coach is for the Niners might have pulled him aside and said, if you don't get your you-know-what together and we win, you might not be playing next week. And maybe that's what did it and why he started playing where it was. Like, so I think, I don't know if there's any truth to that, rumor or whatever it is, but would you be shocked if somebody was like, we need to motivate this dude somehow, tell him he's not playing in the Super Bowl?
I do feel like, did they show him that clip at halftime?
Right.
Go, this is on the internet, dude.
Here's the iPad or, the Surface
you're
or
trending.
whatever.
You want to know why?
Yeah, right.
Take a look.
Right, because you
and woke him up.
Yeah, he also, that was a terrible play.
Terrible.
Didn't put his hands on. It was like, what are you doing? Throw your body at him. Come on. Yeah.
Ron Rivera interviewed with the Rams for the defensive coordinator position vacated by Raheem Morris, who's the new head coach of the Falcons. Mm-hmm. And then also came out over the weekend, Dallas would consider him if Dan Quinn leaves for another job, which at this point is starting to feel semi-unlikely unless you ask Adam Schefter, which I'll get to at the top of the hour. He is tripling down on, stop telling me what's in the bag. I tell you everything that's going to happen. And for some reason, he doesn't want to bang the gavel for this is done. Ben Johnson's coming here. So I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out for the next, it'll be 3 days.
Yep, right.
I believe we will have an announcement of who the next head coach of the team will be by Wednesday. Mm-hmm. That's what I think.
No, of course.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wednesday night. Yeah. That's when we're going to have it. And then Friday, we're going to have a press conference in Ashburn because the NFL doesn't like when you do those during Super Bowl week.
Yes, they already swiped it one time.
Yeah, they're not going to want them to do it during the Pro Bowl, and they're not going to want. Why would you do it Saturday? Friday morning, 10 a.m., there's going to be a press conference introducing somebody in Ashburn. That's what I believe will happen. I still believe it's going to be Ben Johnson, but Schefter is now publicly screaming at anybody that tries to say it isn't. And as for Ron, just because I'll get to Schefter and I'm going to do that top of the hour. As for Ron, I hope he gets one of these gigs.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he's a really good coach. Like, I hope he gets one of these things. Mm-hmm. I'm a little surprised that he's kind of turned around and been like, I really want to work really hard. I kind of had this weird feeling like he's going to drift off into the sunset for a year, collect the check. Remember, he was under contract for next year. Collect the check, and then reassess. But it sounds like firing Jack Del Rio, taking over the defense, re-energized him. And he actually badly would like to coach again this year, and he's totally open to a coordinator position.
Well, look, let's be objective here. What went wrong the worst here? It was picking the players and then conceding too much power. We've
didn't have to do either one of those things.
Exactly.
Good job.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And what do we say he's best at? Motivating and keeping his players ready to go. So I'm actually not surprised this is happening. And the league also is looking at that going, you know what? Veteran guy. He's been to a Super Bowl. I'm not surprised his name is actually being floated
not
out
at
there.
all.
What is?
I wasn't either. When I saw people mocking that on the internet, I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I will. That guy's a really good coach. They'd be lucky to get him. And I bet you if Fangio didn't go to Philadelphia, I bet Ron would have got that because they were looking for that profile.
History there, too.
Somebody who's been around the block, been a head coach, and can calm things down in the locker room if it goes berserker on Sirianni again.
Right, exactly.
That's what they did.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. Will he get the rant? McVay, Rivera. Boy, that's going to be a weird sideline.
We're going to throw a graphic up on that one, guys?
That's a weird sideline. That's Twilight Zone sideline for us. It's going weird, if Quinn leaves and he goes to Dallas.
Oh, God, I don't want that.
That's a really weird sideline.
The McVay one, though, I think they match each other's fire. I think that's a good match in terms of their energy. McVay gets real fired up. I think Ron got fired up at times, and
At
not
times.
all the time. He picked
At
his
times.
spots, but
He did.
especially behind the scenes, I bet you they're a really good match in terms of
maybe.
the energy. Because Ron was always boisterous, in the locker room with those players. So
Yeah.
I could see that being a good match.
It could be. All right, let's take a quick break, and then I'll get into Schefter and what's going on here now that Ben Johnson and Mike McDonald are available to be hired. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, let's get into the coaching search now that we are free and clear. As far as I can tell, and I thought this was important that somebody said this. I think it was Ben Standig who tweeted this. Like, all of us who are, quote unquote, in the know, believe Ben Johnson is going to be the next head coach of the team.
Yes.
I'll talk about Schefter in a moment. Ben did tweet out something today, though, which I thought was important because I think reporters should do this, which he said all of the known candidates are now available to be interviewed.
That's right.
So it's to point out that I don't think there's anybody on Kansas City or San Francisco staff that they are looking at.
Sure.
Now, considering where Adam Peters came from, it would not be unreasonable to think that there is somebody on that staff that they're probably interested in on some level, right?
Right.
I don't know who that is, and none of those names have popped up, and maybe that person is more like someone who might be a defensive coordinator, so I don't know, right? I don't know about that. But I thought that was important to say that because, and I'll reiterate this on two accounts, this group, the group that's running the search committee, the leaks are tight.
Yep. Right.
They're not talking.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so for all of us who like to pontificate about it, and I'm telling you this from my own knowledge, like I haven't seen it like this in a while, which I think is a good thing. Like
agree.
I would say this about it because of that. I would be surprised if Ben Johnson isn't the head coach of the team. That said, they have messaged through me, through Keim, through others, that while they will admit that Adam Peters was who they wanted and they got it done very quickly, that the coaching search, everyone who started from the get-go saying, we know who you're going after, they've pushed back at that from the start. Mm-hmm. And they have, while not leaking anything about who they're talking to or what is really of interest to them,
right.
They are making it clear there is no slam dunk here. And that started a few weeks ago with a couple of exceptions because they wanted to get out from under it. They were never bringing Belichick here.
That's
so
right.
They wanted to make that very clear. Don't get that part messed up.
That's right.
That's not happening here. So they clarified that on that one. But everything else has been, take your best guesses. The people we like. We are announcing who we're interviewing. So it's not a huge surprise, but this is where we are. So Adam Schefter over the weekend wrote a piece and probably went on the pregame shows. I didn't see their pregame show, but probably went on the pregame shows and reiterated all this, but wrote a piece and I saw it where he said what I'm telling you that they've told me and what I've heard about the process, that stop assuming that one particular person is the target that we're looking for the whole time. Stop assuming that, okay? And Schefter doubled down on it and wrote that basic exact terminology.
Yep.
They are very interested in Dan Quinn. They were very interested in Raheem Morris. They are very interested in others unnamed, likely two Ravens candidates, Mike McDonald or Anthony Weaver.
Right.
That they are actually interested in all these people, and therefore it's not a done deal. So now we get to today, which is Seattle clearly wants Mike McDonald. They could have hired Dan. If they were scared that the Commanders might hire Dan Quinn and they actually wanted Dan Quinn, wouldn't they have done it by now?
Right, exactly.
They didn't. Mm-hmm. So I think we have sussed this out. They want Mike McDonald. So what does Washington do? The day after the game, they're interviewing him immediately. They had the best scoring defense in the league. This is off of an interesting tree. He worked for Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. He worked for John Harbaugh in Baltimore. We've talked a lot about structure of organizations and the type of people we want to bring in that come from these types of organizations. So he has lived and breathed in two places, one that just won a national championship and the other team that, while I don't know what in the world they were doing yesterday, that actually was a little out of character for them.
Sure.
And they are a definitive problem that knows how to be successful every single year.
Right.
There's not a year that goes by that they are not successful.
Not to mention Harbaugh has been able to navigate them through weird front office stuff too.
Of course.
Like they got through the Ozzie stuff because his personnel started to get wonky, right?
Yes.
And then they revamped it, and look, they're right back there. Like, I think that speaks for Harbaugh, how good he is. He can navigate through any kind of water. Maybe that's what they're thinking too. Maybe they're thinking they know, this organization has had its fair share of drama. We may need to make sure we have a steady hand when, stuff goes sideways in that realm. Like, it's not going to be Dan Snyder stuff, but you know what I mean.
So if I am to take all of this at face value, what I know, what Schefter is yelling, and apparently went on, it was either McAfee or somebody.
He was with McAfee today, so maybe it was that.
So I saw a clip of him, and he said this, and I probably should just play it, but he said this, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty almost to the word.
Yeah.
He said, Seattle getting Dan Quinn, which felt like was a shoo-in because he used to be the DC of the Legion of Boom.
Right.
And Washington getting Ben Johnson, he said, as a slam dunk shoo-in, he said, quote, I would bet you that at least one of these do not happen. Mm-hmm. And in that case, I would say back, the one is Seattle. They could have signed Dan Quinn by now.
Yeah.
That I think they're looking at Mike Macdonald. And maybe Washington, before they make a final decision on Johnson, is looking at Macdonald too.
Right.
So if we're trying to figure out what's really going on here, I think Ben Johnson is the top choice, but they're open-minded to. They will be surprised or overwhelmed or however you want to put it by talking to someone and going, you know what, actually, we should go with this guy. Dan Quinn, apparently, from what I can tell, really wants this job.
That's what I was going to say. Like, what if...
I think he does.
Could it be a scenario where the Seahawks are ready to have him be the head coach, but he's going, I need to get an answer from the Washington job first? Like, do coaches do that? Like, I'm legitimately asking. Like, it sounds insane.
He is, though, putting himself in a position where he may not get a job
That's right.
all.
Right, exactly. But maybe that's what he's saying is he knows that's the better scenario. And and honestly, going back to Dallas isn't the worst thing in the world. We know he's well paid. We know he's going to have a chance to be a head coach there, too.
But the way he's acted, the way this is dangled out there, and where we are right now, where you go, well, obviously Washington's taking Ben Johnson. If Seattle's not hiring him, then he's going to get shut out of the cycle. Well, why is he so intimately involved in trying to get one of these things? I think he is actively trying to get Washington to hire him.
Yeah.
Like, he wants that job.
Like, maybe
he wants it.
His actual choices might really be Washington, or he'd rather go back to Dallas. And maybe he doesn't want to deal with that division in Seattle. Like, maybe he's looking at that going, I'm good. I don't need to deal with Shanahan and McVay.
I gotta tell you, though, like, if I was, just from a personnel standpoint, if I was looking at what's on, that side of the ball, now that Chase and Montez are gone, if I was looking on the young talent on one side of the ball, I would be hard-pressed not to look at Seattle and say, I think I got a better shot in the short term.
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Same thing, though. I keep saying this about Quinn. Quinn got Shanahan on board in Atlanta. Like, maybe he knows who he would go with as an offensive coordinator.
That's what I'd want to hear from him.
Yeah.
Who's your offensive coordinator? Who's coming here?
Sure. And
who are you bringing with you to be our offensive coordinator,
right,
then? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, of course. And, I think but it's not like he doesn't know how to pick them. Like, he got Shanahan. They were in the Super Bowl. That's why, you and I talked about this yesterday at our remote, where I don't get why people are souring on the Quinn choice, as much as they are, like the fan base is, because he's got a track record that he went to the Super Bowl and he found an offensive coordinator and he's done it before. Maybe he's just awaiting the answer before he makes this call. That's the only thing. Because we did hear, too, I think that was the reporting as well. Quinn wants to come here, that he did, angle to get here.
I also think this. I've been surprised because, Ben Johnson's gotten a tremendous amount of attention.
Yeah.
What McDonald did in Baltimore, I don't know why we haven't heard his name bubble up fast.
Even off of yesterday, he deserves the credit for that. Like, he's going.
It isn't his fault they lost.
Going, guys, I held Mahomes to 17, and you couldn't help me out.
17 in a home playoff game.
Right.
And you have the MVP playing quarterback for your team.
Yeah, he's going.
Guys.
Yeah, he's going, not my fault on that one.
They were dominant in the second half. Mm-hmm. Absolutely dominant in the second half. And, I felt this way, I think Seattle ought to get him because he clearly understands how to slow down the modern NFL offenses and specifically the style of play that's occurring in his division with Shanahan and McVay. You have to, if you don't have Mahomes or you don't have your guy or you don't have a high-powered offense that can keep up, which they don't currently. Although I don't know. They're a quarterback away, too. They get the right guy there. With that skill position group, they could be really good if they get the right guy there. But I look at them and I go, okay, if I'm them, I want the guy that can slow those offenses down. Sure. That's my route to winning that division. And so he screams to me the right person for them. But maybe this is the Washington pushback of all of this about Ben Johnson's not the slam dunk is, maybe they want to talk to him and take a really hard look at him. Because I have felt this way for weeks now. You got to take a hard look, not just at what Johnson's doing, which has been terrific, but what that guy's doing too. Because that is high-level defense that's happening right now. Like, beyond high-level defense. I don't know how you don't take a look at that. And when we do talk about this, we want to model ourselves after these successful programs. Adam Peters comes from San Francisco. Here they are in the Super Bowl again. They've been in the NFC Championship for a number of years. They did it with the last pick in the draft at quarterback. They clearly know how to build a roster that's sustainable to be good. They know how to be coached in a modern fashion. Guess who else does? The Ravens.
Yeah, right.
The Ravens do. So that might be the marriage. Do you go get the guy off the tree from the Ravens to work with the guy off the tree from the 49ers to try to build the best of both worlds?
Yeah, right.
And they keep saying over and over, we're not taking either offense or defense. We're taking the best leader. So now that we're having an in-person interview, it might be a race to get him, and that might be the holdup. We'll have to, because Seattle and Washington neither hired Quinn. Why didn't they do it? Either one of them could have done it for the last 2 weeks. Neither one of them did it. Why? They're waiting out these two guys.
Right. Well,
or at least to talk to them.
To your point, too, you've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. Oh, well, Seattle would want a guy like McDonald because he's stopped all these Shanahan offenses or whatever, and they have Shanahan and McVay in their division. Maybe Washington's philosophy is the same exact thing. Maybe their thinking is a little bit of a pivot, though. They're going, Eagles have a franchise quarterback. Dallas has a franchise quarterback. New York's offense is not good, but they're going, we can draft a quarterback 2 overall, but we don't know if he's going to be good. What gives us a best chance to implement something that's going to make us better overnight? And it is cleaning up the defense and keeping these games close. Because let's be honest here, too. That was the best thing Rivera had going before it all kind of imploded on him, was that the defense was playing really well. Heineke was keeping them in games. And at the bare minimum, they were competitive in every single game they played. Like, Ron did not get blown out a lot in those first 3 years. The last year, he got destroyed. But I think maybe they're even thinking, if we clean up the defense and keep these games close, we have a path to success a little bit faster.
Well, I think in the short term, too, because the reality is we're taking a quarterback at number 2. I mean, that's happening. So we're going to have a rookie quarterback here. Maybe we get lucky and he's Stroud and he's really good right off the bat. And maybe he's not. Like every other rookie quarterback that takes a little time to kind of get going here. And oh, by the way, they got a lot of work to do on the offensive line. It is not going to be replete with the Lions offensive line in 1 year. It's going to take some time to do that. Yes. We bring in someone like Jaden Daniels, who's a incredible athlete and can do all these kind of crazy off-schedule things. Well, you better have a defense that can hang in there.
That's right.
And so this makes sense to me. Now, in the end, I also saw somebody, because Schefter went on and on about this may or may not happen. I still think Ben Johnson's the number 1 choice. I still think there's a reason why these other teams just filled their vacancies. So, I still feel like that's the case. But I do hold out for McDonald might be the choice if they're kind of overwhelmed by it. And for all those reasons we just cited, that it might be the right way to go. But we'll see, right? I did see someone do a reply to one of the Schefter things. Someone's trying to get some leverage here on Johnson.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because I think that's some of this, too. But the team doesn't want you thinking, this is the guy we've wanted the whole time, because then he walks in the door and says, give me all of this.
That's right.
And then Johnson's camp has been notably saying back, we are not a package deal. We are not, that is not the case. So this very much in both ways could be, they're getting together. But both sides don't want to let the other one know that it is definitively
the match made. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's absolutely
correct.
True. Yeah.
So I think that could be just happening here too. That both sides are trying to play now Johnson's running out of options.
Right. Correct.
So actually, Washington, if they are willing to leverage him, might get a little better deal with him.
Yeah.
And maybe not for the length of time that he would want. The going rate on the desperate teams is 6 years. The going rate on the good teams is more like 4.
4, yep, right.
So I think that the money probably won't be the bigger deal. It's the length of time that you commit. And that is really realistically all that might be happening here, is that both sides are trying to say, don't say, I want this so bad that I'll just do it, for whatever. And the team is saying, we've got other options, even though I think we all know where this has been heading the whole time. So I'm going to stay the course here and go, I still think Ben Johnson's going to be the coach. I really do. And I'll tell you what the win-win, in my opinion, would be. Because everyone is saying that this associate head coach, D-line coach, Anthony Weaver from the Ravens, is killing it in the interviews, right?
Right.
I'd hire him as the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, no, that would be a slam dunk. Absolutely.
Slam dunk.
Yeah, for sure.
Bring him in, this other guy to run the defense here, or get Ejiro Evero from Carolina. But the problem with him is they aren't letting him do the
lateral.
They're not letting him for that. They
right.
have to let him, talk about. So they'd have to give him a bigger title, which I don't know whether they want to do or not. But that would be a win too, from what I've heard about him.
Yeah.
But this is now I'm starting to think, unless Mike McDonald surprises them, I think Seattle's hiring him. But maybe tonight they have
here's some noise,
Well, they may have we love both of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's talk. And then Seattle will have to jump.
Right.
And make a move for whoever they want. And I have a feeling Quinn is the backup to the backup for both of them.
That could be the case.
That's what I think is happening
Could
here.
be the case.
I think Washington's going to hire Ben Johnson unless they're surprised by Mike McDonald. And then if Seattle wants McDonald but loses out on him, Quinn goes to Seattle, right? If Washington goes with Ben Johnson, then I think they're going to hire Mike McDonald and all's well that ends well. That's what I think. And if Ben Johnson does I'm going to stay the course here. I do think this is happening. But I am open to, and I felt this way for weeks, they need to talk to this guy. Because what they're doing in Baltimore, I haven't seen a lot of defenses handle that proliferation of that offense regularly, like the way they're doing it.
Right.
They're handling them differently than everybody else. Well, he clearly knows what he's doing. So we need to talk to him about that. As much as we know what Ben Johnson's doing in Detroit, we know what he's doing. But I think the win right now, Ben Johnson, Anthony Weaver, go get him to be the defensive coordinator here. Best of both worlds. You get that Lions offense, the guy they say is head coaching timber, and you get the, defensive coordinator off of the Ravens, off of that staff, who's been killing it in the interviews and everyone says is great. Or you get overwhelmed tonight in this interview with Mike McDonald. You make an offer to bring him in, but you got to know who is his offensive coordinator, because that's going to be important here, because we are, in all likelihood, drafting a quarterback at number 2, and we need someone strong to take over from the get-go there.
I'm just going to throw a little bit of a tinge of water on the Ben Johnson thing. I think in the last couple days, the narrative on Johnson has also been Johnson's been able to run whatever he wants because look at what that offensive line is.
I've been saying this for a couple of years now. They have Eagles, Falcons.
Yep.
They have like the best offensive line. That's why the Falcons makes no sense to me. They have the great offensive line. They should be better than this. And it's an indictment of Arthur Smith, honestly, that they weren't better. And they had crazy talent around them.
Sure.
The line, I listen, I'm an inside-out person. I think you need to have a good quarterback and you need to have good lines. If you control the line of scrimmage, you're a different team. I thought San Francisco was going to lose yesterday because they're not controlling the line of scrimmage for whatever reason. They're just not controlling.
They were for a
they
half.
Were.
They were bullying them in the first half.
They were, but they aren't. Like, they haven't been getting a consistent pass rush lately. They aren't controlling the line of scrimmage. They're getting the ball run down their throat. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but that's what I believe. I believe you build inside out. The lines are what's important. Washington needs to fix its line. Ben Johnson, I'm sure, does a great job. And I think it is extremely creative. And I want to give them credit. Like, they are extremely coordinated. Go watch the replays of their plays of the moving parts. They sent Penei Sewell in motion a couple times yesterday. Yep. They've done all sorts of crazy things with multiple offensive linemen, and those guys move, and they're great. And it is the secret to them is the offensive line. But I have felt this way forever. Our best 10 years in our history was when we had the best offensive line.
Sure.
Welcome to the NFL. Some of these things change and some don't. If you're really good at controlling the line of scrimmage, you win.
Right.
The Eagles have done this for years with their offensive line. They control the line of scrimmage.
They might, and that's what I'm getting at here is maybe even Washington is going, we love Ben Johnson, but let's take a step back here because that McDonald dude is doing things that we haven't seen on defense, and they're going, the things Johnson wants to do, we are in zero position to be able to do some of that right now. And they're going, it might take a while for that to be fixed.
No doubt.
I think
And
they're
we're probably not using the second overall pick on a tackle
That's right.
because we need a quarterback.
Exactly. So I think actually this is more strategic. Of the roster might dictate they've really got to take a serious look at the other guy, because the one guy will not be able to do what he was doing in Detroit.
I would look at the Division II and I'd go, look, Dak isn't going anywhere. He is very
That's
good.
right. No, that's what I said before too.
Yeah.
There's two of the four have franchise quarterbacks.
I know the Eagles went sideways, but go look at their talent on that team, and the way that they run the ball and all that stuff. Like, it's not going to be easy. Like, they're a problem, and the Giants they're kind of a wayward mess, honestly. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but I will say
doesn't matter who plays quarterback against us, apparently.
They're a mess, but they are. I believe the head coach is a good head coach. I just don't think they have a very good roster, to win with, and they're kind of wayward, and we'll see if they get themselves fixed. But the two teams you're dealing with are really better offenses than, Dallas is. This is why Dallas was a disappointment. They had enough on both sides of the ball to win, and they know it.
But they're both going to be fine for 4 or 5 years. That's what I think, and that's what I'm saying here. Like,
they're going to re-sign Dak. They have no choice.
Right. But so what I'm getting at here is they're going, we can still take a quarterback 2 overall, but if he doesn't work out too, then we're really in a bad position, and all of a sudden they would have to, really shore up defensively. I think they're taking a legitimate look at him.
I'll be doing the late night poking around after this interview tonight, but I'm still going Ben Johnson 1, McDonald 1A, Dan Quinn 1B if these interviews don't go as well. Because I think they seriously would hire him. I do. I think they would if these other ones, for some reason, don't ring the right bells, which I think they will. This could flip by tomorrow. Maybe there's a race to get McDonald.
Maybe.
And maybe that's what's happening here, is between Seattle and Washington that they want him. So we'll have to see how it plays out tonight.
Where's Extreme Skins when we need it? Those are the best days.
Extreme Skids?
Yeah. Before Twitter, Extreme Skins.
That got shut down last fall, didn't it? Like, finally?
Yeah, well, because the team bought it and it neutered it. So, yeah. And then Twitter became a thing. Like, Twitter actually is what killed that.
Well, the team bought it, and then there were certain people in the team that were showing up, making comments. Yes. It was like the original burner.
It was
like the original burner account.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, 100%. But
I think John Allen had a great year. Oh, did you? Thanks for posting that.
Thanks, JA9093. Huh?
Yeah.
Who could that be? You remember those days though? Midnight. All of a sudden, people had information that it was nowhere else on the internet.
I'm hearing that, and you're like, that's interesting.
You only post at midnight on the day free agency opens up for some reason. Isn't that interesting?
It's really strange.
There's like 5 people in their cars right now that are like, yes, I remember doing that.
Someone reached out to me and asked when they shut it down if I could help them get it back turned on, and I said, no, I cannot. But I'm like, not because I don't want to.
The team ain't going to let you just shut that back on either.
Nor would I ask.
Extreme Manders.
Yeah.
You should just change the name.
Extreme, yeah. You should. Extreme Manders.
Extreme Manders.
Let's see if Josh Harris buys that from you.
That'd be if you could sell a message board in 2024.
What I'm going to be doing in this break is checking out GoDaddy for Extreme Manders.